talking about how he was going to have a very austere fiscal program which would control inflation. Instead of that, he did exactly what most of the other Democratic presidents have done. He took all of the existing programs and talked about reforming them, but really in the final analysis did nothing more than throw more and more federal money at them, which increased inflation, increased government deficits, and really did nothing to assist the people who were most in need.
I've used the word innovative tonight. What is innovative about Governor Reagan's approach? Well,
he's got a number of things that he did in connection with the welfare program in California, the Medicaid program in California, but primarily now, one of the things he's doing is, again, not to have a government program, but to back the government out of so much of this direct participation and encourage private industry and enterprise to move in. You will recall that one of the worst depressed areas in the country at the start he did was, what he would do is, as he would do in other depressed urban areas, is to have these enterprise zones which would encourage more and more of the private enterprise to go in through tax advantages and tax incentives, build businesses and employ people right there.
Lest anybody misunderstand, during the short term before we have the improvement in the economies, he has no thoughts of abandoning the poor.
No. He's too familiar with the problems and too sensitive to their needs to do anything of that kind.
Do you think that, as has been suggested, that Governor Reagan will somehow not be able to handle the problem because he comes from a background, which, I'm talking about political background now, which has been in the past associated with an insensitivity to the poor?
I don't think anything that he's ever done or anything that his programs have had anything to do with have connoted any insensitivity to the poor. He has talked a great deal about the need for government restraint, fiscal restraint, primarily so that the economy would improve and so that jobs would be created, which indeed would help the poor. And the percentage of increase of welfare benefits during his time in California demonstrates that I don't think we have anything to fear along that line.
Mr. Weinberger, let me interrupt. At this point, Mr. Nelson will be able to come back to you with some additional questions. We're going to go to Mr. Cole for some questions on cross-examination. Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. Secretary, welcome.
Thank you.
We've heard a great deal of Republican rhetoric over the last few years, and especially from your candidate, about welfare fraud. I wonder, sir, from your experience in California and in Washington, is your focus in that rhetoric, and particularly in your candidate's rhetoric, on recipient fraud?
I think that what is generally meant by fraud in the welfare programs and the Medicare, Medicaid programs consists of a number of different kinds of things. I think perhaps waste, abuse, and fraud go together. And primarily, I would think that what we are talking about is a situation where either ineligible people apply, or where the people administering the program are not sufficiently careful with the establishing the eligibility, or where there is some definite mismanagement, a failure to take the necessary precautions to ensure that eligible people are receiving the benefits, and simple administrative mistakes.
Are you focusing principally on welfare as opposed to vendor fraud?
We're focusing on all areas of waste and abuse of government programs, and there's a very substantial amount.
I've seen statistics, sir, that indicate that vendor fraud, that is, fraud on the part and abuse on the part of vendors of the welfare services,